Everybody, we're back. This is Hidden Threads. I'm here with Victoria.
Hi.
Remember, this is the show where we talk about private investigations
hmm
and a lot of other things, like Victoria's shirt. Are you a Harley Davidson driver?
No,
Rider. Did I call it right?
a rider is how you would say. I can't ride a bike though.
You
I'm a
can't.
backpack.
You ride with your boyfriend? Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Wait, we call him
Fiance.
fiance. You're all fancy now. Fancy Pants McGee over here.
Right, okay, over
but
here.
yeah, so yeah, we talk about a lot of nothing,
hmm
serious stuff,
hmm
and hopefully you learn something.
Yes.
Okay. What's the topic for today? You mentioned it earlier.
Today we're diving in a little bit about how to become a PI, the steps involved. It's a pretty long process,
Yeah. So you
longer
just
than you
went through
think.
it. You went through the apprentice side of it, which is very similar.
Yeah, so you can't just like jump into being an investigator.
What was the most shocking part of it to you?
Of just like the studying portion of everything, or just in
Hmm.
general?
Yeah, it was the hardest part.
I think the hardest part is just reading through. I mean, you just gotta consistently read the material to
Right.
know it. You know,
Right.
people struggle with consistency, but it's not that hard of a test. It's just a lot of info to filter through.
Right. I think it's 50 questions
50
and
questions.
about 500 pages of material. So it can come from anywhere, right? So,
So I just took it and broke it down into like PowerPoint slides to help myself. You know.
right. So yeah, let's get into it a little bit. So I come from a special operations background. Later on in life, I went through the Army Military Police program as an officer, right? So worked for the State Department. I had an understanding of the laws, policing a little bit. I'm not a traditional cop like you would see out here driving around, but I did have an understanding. So that part of the test was not that hard to me.
Yeah.
The part that shocked me a little bit when I went into this thing was how slow the process is. They actually do background checks.
Mm-hmm.
They do your fingerprints and make sure they do 3 levels of background checks. They do a local, state, and federal. Make sure you're not a criminal, sex offender, all those weird things. If you're a felon in Alabama, you absolutely cannot be a PI.
Gotcha.
I've had some people come to me who said they wanted to be a PI. They had a felony. They'd done their time from 30 years before.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm sorry, you can't do it. The board will tell you you can't do it.
What's the one other thing like predator?
Uh,
Is it what is I forgot the right
Domestic
words.
abuse issues, any kind of domestic violence charge, you can't do it either. So
Moral turpitude.
moral turpitude, right?
Turpitude.
It's up to the board. The board reviews them all in Alabama. I'm sure they do in other states as well, and it's up to their discretion. So the board has a PI on there, has a sheriff on there, a couple of lawyers, one lawyer, I think, and an at-large member. I'm not sure what that means,
Mm-hmm.
but anyways, there's an at-large member,
Yeah.
so it represents the community. So it's up to them to decide who gets in and who don't. But
So after the apprenticeship process, what are we doing? What's the next step?
so you have to get 250 hours of PI work. It's pretty broad. All right,
Mm-hmm.
you can go out and do. You have to work under my supervision. You can go out and do surveillance. You can do digital forensics. Any of those things that fall under the PI investigation genre, so to speak. Anything that would fall under that category.
Okay.
Also, it falls under there is business operations.
Mm-hmm.
And Victoria helps me with sales, which is a big part of business operations. So
Yeah.
she's learning a lot doing that. When you
Yes.
call in, Victoria's one of the first people you talk to. So she learns a lot
Yeah.
just from talking the cold incoming call, right?
Hey, this is Victoria. Welcome to Macky Outlaw.
That's why I hired her. That's the first question. I said, say that in the interview process, and that's what it was. So
No, we have a good time doing. I have a good time doing sales, honestly. So it's the 250 hours after you pass the apprenticeship exam.
right.
Then there's another exam.
No, there's not. After you pass the apprentice exam and you get your hours, we turn your paperwork in,
Gotcha.
and then you'll be a PI. Then you just have to maintain your continuing education units, CEUs.
Yeah.
Look like another PI. So
Gotcha.
there's not another exam.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's not as easy as people think. Now anybody can apply as long as you don't have a felony and be an apprentice. I've had very successful PIs work for me that were house moms,
Mm-hmm.
had zero background in policing or anything, and they were very successful.
Yeah.
Um, I've had obviously police officers that work for us now that were in the retired police that work for us now, and they do a good job as well. But what I'm saying is, if you got the motivation to do it, you don't have to have a specific. You don't have to be a Navy SEAL or an ex-CIA operative to do
Right.
it. You just have to have the motivation to learn it and get out and do it.
So what's the difference to you of a good PI and just
A jerk.
yeah.
Okay. So I don't think this is any different than any other profession. I don't care if it's you're a home builder, a nurse, or anything. It's the work ethic part. All right? You got to be able to show up on time with the right equipment and with the right attitude, and you're going to go a long ways with that.
Yeah.
So we get people that come here and, be honest with you, they do a half-assed job, and they expect to get paid for it. And I try to coach them and get them through it. They're just lazy people, and they don't succeed. That's not PI. That's any field, right? You got your top 10% that really put out and learn their profession, and you got the rest of them that just want to draw a check. We call them PCCs.
Yeah.
Paycheck collectors.
For sure.
And that's the biggest drawback we get with hiring people. We test them out, and sometimes they just suck.
So does it, in your experience, does it help to have a law enforcement background, or would you rather be like start fresh with no?
So I've had good success with people with law enforcement backgrounds. We have two that work for us now. Two of our better investigators have law enforcement backgrounds, and they are awesome. They're very good at report writing. You go out, collect the evidence. You got to be able to report it in a report, and they do excellent at that. They know how to do it. I've had other people with police backgrounds, and they could not write to save their life. They wanted me to do it for them. All right. So if I got to do it for you, I don't really need you. So,
True.
And I try to coach them and train them up how to do it, and they just wouldn't stick. Right. So they didn't work for us anymore.
Yeah.
I'll coach anybody on how to write, how to do the thing, but eventually you got to do it on your own. I'm not going to do it for you for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And pay you for it. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, work ethic is a big thing. And what I mean by that, showing up on time, following the rules. I do have some guidelines of how I like things done. If you follow those and don't try to throw your own twist in it, I don't care where you came from.
Right.
Now, if you throw an idea at me, and it's good, I'll entertain it. But if you're just going to do your own thing just because you feel like it that day, then I typically have a problem with it. So
that makes sense. Checks out to me.
You've been around a little bit, Victoria. What have you seen our biggest problem with PIs is?
I mean, specifically with us, I mean, just like you just said, it's a consistency thing. Like, be here on time, taking too much time off. Like, there's never a consistent flow of it. I mean, it's hard to make humans also be consistent.
Right.
The few that we have that are consistent, I mean, that's
superstars,
all you
right?
could ask for.
And make a lot of money too.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do reward for performance. Another problem we have is actually finding them. So you can't just be a geek off the street and walk in and be a PI. You got to go get licensed. You have a specific background,
which does cost money. I think it's like $600.
Yeah, total. You paid $3 at one point and $3 at another point, or something like that. You're the first apprentice I've had that actually went through the whole program and are still working.
Yeah.
We get some of them, they come in and we get them started in the apprentice process. We can take up to 6 weeks, and they quit in the middle because they said, this is just too much. Because I'm making them do work in the meantime. You're learning the business.
No,
and
for sure.
You just don't sit around and get a check at my place. So you got to earn it. And you're gonna bring value, or you're not gonna work here.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
And I think you've seen that. You've seen some come and go, right?
I have.
All right.
It's a fun time. Macky's also like the best boss ever too to have.
Yes, she says that today, but tomorrow it may change. Who knows?
Anyone that works for you would say that too, though. Amazing boss.
Victoria's interesting. When she first started here, I had a person working for me.
Oh yes.
And I was doing a podcast at the time. I was a guest on a podcast, and I wanted them to kind of set in and listen to it. It was one of those deals where I was on my computer and they were recording, asking me questions remotely. And we had a young lady. She was supposed to be an apprentice learning the business, and she laid down behind me and put crystals on her forehead and one on her belly button or something.
Story makes me crack up.
You can crack up all you want.
Oh my goodness!
I'm sitting there talking about this guy that got a life sentence that's been wrongfully convicted. I turn around, there's a girl with rocks on her face, And I'm like, what's happening? And Victoria's brand new, like day 2.
Seriously, probably I think day 2 for real. And I'm just sitting there like trying not to have my jaw drop to the floor. Ain't no way this lady's sitting here with crystals all over her.
And I'm like, I'm looking at her and I'm like, well, Victoria's going to get up and walk away any second. And she didn't. She got fired pretty quickly though. So
yeah, she did.
Let me tell you what broke the back. You remember that?
I was going to say, can you tell about you going out doing the recording? I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Yes. So I hope this person doesn't watch this. But anyways, it's too good not to talk about, right?
It really is, though.
So we had a guy who's been convicted of murder, right? This is another one we could bring up in another episode. But we went out there. There was a body dump put in a truck toolbox and dumped, right? And we were going to go out and recreate that scene. So she's supposed to be doing the videoing, and I am. This box weighs as much as a man. It's 180 pounds. So I'm moving this thing around, doing all this, and I'm talking. I had a lapel mic on. I'm talking. She'd set the camera down in the back of the truck, and she was on the side of the road. I was like, where is she? She was gone. She was picking wildflowers, saying she wanted to make herbs out of it. And I'm like, oh my God, all this. She was the next day, I think it was when we ended our relationship, but it was interesting.
But then Macky had to go back out and recreate the whole thing.
Because she's in the video picking flowers on the side. That's what it was. Horrible. And I had to go back and redo it. And I'm old, y'all. I'm like 50, and this box was heavy. It was hot. It was in the summer. And I was like, I was upset. That was we had some other issues with her, but that was the main one that got her.
How hard is it to stand behind the camera and not pick flowers?
Right. And she's supposed to be learning the business. She's an apprentice. She's supposed to be learning how we do this. And she's out picking wildflowers and going to make
crime scene
witches brew or something. So anyway.
So insane. There's some interesting people. She was a lot.
Day 2, Victoria, that was your intro to PI world, where you're thinking, what am I getting into?
I was just thinking to myself, I want to speak on one thing. First day of working for you, when we do a thing called case reviews, where you sit down and you just go through all the cases that we're working. And Macky sat down, I sat down, and it's around this big circle table, like a conference room. And Macky starts going down the list of case reviews. I'm brand new, first day, and this other lady sitting here, and she just gets out her makeup bag and starts putting on a full face of makeup, and I'm sitting there like, there's no way.
I remember that now.
She's doing this.
I try to block it out of my mind, but
this is not the time. But yeah,
she started out great. I don't know what happened, but she did okay to start with, and then things happen. People lose their mind. So
yes, they do. I have.
Yeah. So the biggest issue we have is actually having enough personnel. So to work the cases. We try to grow the company, and sometimes it can be hard when you don't have the people to do it.
For sure.
Especially right now, we're getting holiday season, and people are taking off. And I'm available to work them. I do work cases. I took Victoria. We were looking for a car the other day.
Yeah.
But I do work them. But finding quality people. I've had a lot of people come to me with license before, and they were awful. I'm talking not just bad investigators, but just bad people. And I don't want those kind of people working for me. Like they would lie to me, lie on reports.
Like wasting time.
Fudging hours was a big one. They would go out and, you get allotted 5 hours for a task. The next day I would look at what they did, and they did 8 hours and expect to get paid for it. And I said, well, it says clearly in your contract, if you go over, you got to let me know. All right. You got to tell me before you're going to go over. It's like working overtime at any other job, right?
For sure.
Because people pay for a certain amount of hours, and we're not going to just, lose money for no reason because you wanted to make some extra Christmas money this year, right?
Right.
And they do it, and I don't know. Then they lie about it. Try to say that somebody else told them to do it. One of my other employees or something. And
should we talk about pay rates?
Pay rates?
Yeah, like how much does an investigator actually make?
They don't get paid until month 3. I'm just kidding. So we start out at a certain rate, around $30 an hour. If they come to me fully licensed with some training background, like a year or more. Right? Yeah. They already have a background in either private investigations or working for a federal agency or a police department. And then these are contractors too. You're a full timer because you do other sales tasks, right? You get other things. And then as they prove themselves over a month or so, they get up. We kind of max out at about $50 an hour, 50.
It's not bad.
And You can get up to 30 to 40 hours a week if you're one of the top dogs, if you're one that I would trust to go out and do the hard things. So um, it's not a 9 to 5 job. It's not. A lot of people come here and they say, I can only work from 10 to 2 on Thursdays.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, we won't be using you then because you're out at night, working Sundays sometimes. You're on Saturday nights, working late. If I can do it and I'm not scared to get out and do it, and I've done it for years, everybody else should be able to do it and not be special. You know what I mean? So there's no profession where there's not going to be some challenges. You know what I mean? So the days of 9 to 5 are pretty much over unless you're maybe an accountant, which our accountant, he works all kind of crazy hours, especially starting in January when tax season starts. So he's all over the place. But
so what's your top 3 best tips for someone wanting to get in?
Top 3 best tips for somebody wanting to get into the field, right? Get on your state private investigation board and learn what it takes to be a PI administratively, what it tested, what application looks like, how much it costs. Don't come to me and say, what does it take to be a PI and expect me to do the research for you. That's my test number 1. Hey, can you get on a website and research it and find out what it takes? They ask me all kind of questions. Well, tell me about it. No. You use Google. You're going to use Google throughout your PI career.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And figure it out yourself and come tell me what your plan is
to
get licensed. That's what I'm looking for.
Right.
Self-starters is what I'm looking for. Number 2 is equipment. All right. I do have equipment that people can use. Most guys I've hired pretty quickly came to me and said, I've got the right gear because they read the study manual. It tells them what gear is in there. And they know how to use it. All right. Somebody like Victoria, though, who's an apprentice, they get a little more leeway. She came out, she had zero police experience, and she's learning on the job. So, yes, she gets more leeway. But if you're coming to me saying you're fully licensed and you expect me to provide everything for you as a contractor, I kind of hedge on that a little bit. So you're coming to me and saying you are fully qualified and ready to go, you should have the equipment and know how to use it.
True.
Number 3, if you say you're going to be somewhere and do something, unless your child gets in a car wreck, you need to tell me way before. All right. I've had guys that their kids had an episode and had to go to the hospital. Got it.
Right.
But when I get up in the morning and look at my stuff and you didn't go just because you were tired, serious problem. Don't do it. All right. If you say you're going to take an assignment, go do it. Emergencies come up. I get it, but they're very rare.
Right.
So, what do you think, Victoria?
I think those are great tips. I mean, I think especially me in my generation, I see a lot of just blatant like laziness, and there's no work ethic. So I can totally agree with you on all those things. I mean, just like do what you say you're gonna do. If you're contracted to work at these times, like follow through with what you say, and that doesn't even just apply to like PI stuff. Like your whole life, like follow through on the stuff that you say. Like that's a huge thing.
So your generation, what is your generation?
Gen Z.
Gen Z, millennials get a bad rap. So I've seen it across the board. People my age suck too, so don't think it's just y'all.
Right.
So
there's sucky people everywhere, but I really do think my generation is a little worse at it than like my dad's generation. Like they're all pretty hard workers.
My dad was a baby boomer. You got up and grinded it out no matter what, no matter how bad you felt, whatever.
Right.
And I think I do that too.
You do.
I don't.
You go hard in the paint.
Hard in the paint. Like Shaq?
Yeah.
Like Shaq. Like Shaq. Wish I had Shaq's money. But anyways, we need to bring Shaq's a licensed police officer. We need to bring him on board.
Is he really?
No, he DJs.
He does. He's a, what was that noise?
I think my straw made a noise.
Okay. Get Jillian, my executive assistant. We'll have her on one day.
Jillian's awesome.
She's a hoot and a holler.
Yeah.
Get Jillian to look him up. Let's see if he wants to work. So
that's so funny. Can you imagine him trying to hide from someone?
I had to get her ceilings raised up in here. No, he did some sheriff's deputy stuff when he retired.
What?
Yeah.
That's insane.
But yeah. So in another several episodes, we'll cover the Private Investigator Association, Private Investigator Board, what they do, what they don't do. We'll get into that in some more episodes. But
I know state by state, like the licensing and everything is different.
It changes a lot, by state. You got agency license, you got individual licensing, and we'll get into some of the rules that falls into that. So, what else, Victoria? Anything? Are we gonna?
I think your tips were awesome. I think we've really covered like he said, a lot of people call and I answer the phone and they're like, how do I become a PI? It's not hard to click Google.
Well, your first investigative task
Yes.
is to find out.
Look it up. It's not hard.
If you had a kid come to me right out of high school and said, look, I've researched the rules. Here's my plan to be an apprentice and I want to work for you, I would hire him probably right then.
Yeah.
Or her. It don't matter.
You're showing the initiative.
Yeah.
Like
So-
that's worth a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
But so I think that's it for today. We'll be back, and I think we're going to be publishing on Mondays and Fridays,
That's what I think.
2 days a week. We'll have a better schedule for you soon.
Mm-hmm.
But well, this will be on YouTube, Spotify, all the big ones.
All the things.
You'll be able to find it. So till next time, we'll see you.